Hello and good afternoon. I would like to say that it is still morning, but it is not. I slept terribly, which I'm always saying on videos, I realise, but yeah, again, just I think it was around 4 a.m. when I eventually fell asleep. Um, but I'm still committed to doing this brief Shakespeare Macbeth video. Macbeth, for anyone who does not know, was written by the playwright William Shakespeare. It's going to wake me up. I love reading, writing, so it's something nice to absorb myself into and try and get started on a day. It's 1:56 p.m, so I'm a bit behind, but every day is different. You do what you can and you plough ahead. One must battle on. And indeed, there is battle in Macbeth. I'm not going to assume everyone is familiar with the law of Macbeth. Who's Beth? Macbeth. But yeah, it's a very ancient how there's betrayal and murder and all sorts of things you may expect from certain types of plays. But yeah, it has attracted quite a following over time. And I was going to say, I'm sure it's popular during the time during its conception, but I suppose, and if memory serves, this is true, it's a case of gaining traction in a sense post publication, but long past publication, or certainly in today's world, in part compared to today's world, in part because of the dissemination of information. We have the internet now. If William Shakespeare was around today and he was writing Macbeth, he can upload a blog and people can see it straight away, but back then publishing books was a rarity, I guess, very expensive and very sort of elitist, whereas now people are writing books about how to tie shoelaces, and which is not necessarily a bad thing. That's a seemingly harmless thing, and all different styles of shoelaces. That's pretty cool, but you get the idea. I think the way it is now, particularly with self-publishing platforms like Lula and Amazon CreateSpace, I believe it is still called, you can you write whatever you want and then do whatever you want, publish it just for yourself, publish it for the world, and if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't, and everyone has individual goals. But before, it was more you needed popularity, which sounds like a catch-22. You need popularity in order to get your book published, and how do you get your first book published when no one knows you? But I think back then that was kind of how it was. You'd need some sort of notoriety. Whereas now there's less of the elitist, which is good. So us humble authors can just, I've always wanted to write this story and I don't care about fame, etc., money, etc. I'm just going to write this because I love sharing, and so that's beautiful. Now you can just write, you can do it on a blog, you can even use platforms like Lulu, whatever, to publish free of charge. Whereas before it was you immediately had to pay for the resources, I imagine. Maybe there were exceptions, maybe grants from churches or something, but traditionally you have such, you had about even up to say like the 90s with like Joanne Kathleen Rowling, author of Harry Potter series, for example. She sort of pitched herself to the publishers, so I think she managed to stay determined with certain points. She refused to change, but there was still that interference from publishers saying, look, because to them it's a business model, they're saying we want to sell X amount of volumes, so we're going to tell you to do this, we think this is popular. But Joanne hopefully just wanted to tell stories. She didn't care about fame or anything. So even very recently, in say the 90s, 2000s, there was still that pressure, but it's eroded much more over time within the last 10-15 years, I guess. Now it's particularly blogs, people writing fan fiction and things. I've been watching Sadiq. He may know played Julian Bashir in I'll say Transformers. I don't know because I knew there was a T coming. I said in my head I said Transformers, and I stuttered when I actually said Star Trek. When that actually came out, Star Trek apparently is in Transformers now. Who knew? now I'm going to determine to find a way to see if by some curiosity that I can link him to Transformers. I'm sure I can, some distant. He's probably acted with someone who has appeared in Transformers, but or he is a fan maybe. But no, he appeared in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and he and Nana Visitor, the brilliant, adorable Andy Robinson, he just slipped straight back into the role of Garrett so effortlessly. They've been making like sort of podcasts, audio book, sort of continuation of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. You can see it on YouTube. I think there are 3 episodes up now. I think I saw a new one yesterday. Briefly saw some clips from. So yeah, that's so we're able to share so much easier now. That's really important. That's so good. Not everyone's listening, unfortunately. Some people obviously are going to be arrogant still. They're showing off, but I like to believe that there will always be in this world the humble author who just wants to tell a story, and so I cannot claim to know William Shakespeare's motives. I don't know, maybe he wanted to make a job out of writing, but still had an innocent, he was not trying to sell himself in a negative way. Maybe just wanted to fuse that with a job, his creativity. Obviously we're going back, quite some time. If you're alive in today's world, you know what the media is like. So, not to get too paranoid, but obviously everyone has different opinions, interpretations. So you can read a report about what William Shakespeare did in his time, but that's one person's perspective, and it's a certain. So who knows what he was really thinking? Who knows what he was really doing? But he left us these works, a great body of work. So and I will happily expatiate upon my points, but first I'm going to dive into Macbeth. This is Act 5, Scene 5. It keeps seeing John Delancey as Q in Star Trek The Next Generation, quoting this to Picard. It's a scene that keeps sticking in my head, and YouTube keeps bringing it because I've been watching it. YouTube keeps pushing it back into my view. I'm going to start just before Q's part. Thou comest to use thy tongue, thy story quickly. Okay, so that leads into Q's part. So I shall start with Macbeth's part. I have almost forgot the taste of fears. The time has been my senses would have called to hear a night shriek and my fell of hair. Would at a dismal treatise rouse and stir, as life reigns, I have supped full with horrors. Diurness, familiar to my slaughterous thoughts, cannot once start me. Wherefore was that cry? The Queen, my lord, is dead. She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day, to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools, the way to dusty death, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Thou comest to use thy tongue, thy story quickly. So I've done Q's part. Gracious my lord, I should report that which I say I saw, but know not how to do it. Well say, sir. As I did stand my watch upon the hill, I looked toward Burnham, and anon methought the wood began to move. Liar and slave, let me enjoy your wrath, if it be not so. Within this 3 mile may you see it coming, I say, a moving grove. She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day, to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools, the way to dusty death, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.